Hello everybody and welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan. Thank you for coming to the channel. So for this video I wanted to take a look and take you through the sump that I'm using to filter my 135 gallon freshwater display tank. I'm sitting on the floor in front of the cabinet which opens to the sump. And that's one of the first really nice things about a sump. All of it is away from the tank, right? Now that obviously poses various challenges, but the sump is simple technology really when you think about it, that allows for everything to be away from the tank. It uses a pump and gravity and some very simple physics in order to operate. A sump is like going to the ice cream parlor, 31 flavors, remember that? Anyway, there's more than 31 ways you can equip your sump to do not only the job of filtering your aquarium, but countless other awesome things as well. Now I'm sorry this riser's in the way, but it's there for obvious reasons and I will work around it. So the first thing I want to talk about, now you see the CO2 there, that obviously is not part of the sump per se. I have a double regulator from UNS and a diffuser on each side of the tank, and that is a 5-gallon cylinder. And then the other thing that's technically not part of the sump, although it can be, but it is in the sense that it's an integral part of the system, is an ATO or automatic water top-off system. It uses a very simple pump, and then I have a sensor basically at the about 9 or 10 inch mark on the water line of the sump, and when the water goes below, if I'm out for a few days, water will then pump into the sump from this ATO. So the first chamber of the sump is where the water comes down in from the tank, the tank water, and it falls over a sort of diaphragm, a plastic or an acrylic with holes to diffuse the intensity of the flow, and then I have a series of filter pads. I will talk about these fish in a minute. I use various floss at different grades, and then 3 sets of filter pads, coarse, medium, and fine. And I hold all that up with a little bit of PVC so that it's not crammed into the bottom where it would easily clog up and not serve its purpose. So this allows the water, it allows clearance, and I do that across the first 2 chambers. As you can see in this sump, I've got Neocaridina shrimp. There's a couple blue dreams right there, and then you saw the black mollies. So what happens is the few black mollies I have up in the display, when they toss off fry, the fry get drawn down those pipes, and they're not harmed, at least, well, these ones weren't. And then they like other creatures, can find themselves in the sump. Now, unlike a canister filter, which is also not a kiss of death for these creatures, I find lots of baby shrimp in my canister filter, and I just put them back in the aquarium or use them in another tank. The black mollies are different. I can't just put those anywhere, and I certainly don't want a massive colony in the display tank. So in a way it's a good thing because it keeps the display population in check for these live bears, but they are accumulating within the sump. Now these fish aren't trapped right there, not by a long shot. They can swim through the holes that are all up and down here, and they do, and they will make their way into the second chamber, which has all the biomedia, and you see more of the black mollies in there. And I have different sorts of Biomedia, Matrix, Biohome, other material, and then I created using a just a simple store-bought acrylic box. I have a makeshift planter with some lava rock and pothos growing out of it. You will also see some of the plastic Biomedia, which I don't care for, but I had some and I put it in a long time ago, and I use it here and there to help cycle other tanks. It's easy to pull out. I just grab a handful of them. But you can see the roots from the pothos, and that's a lot of time, have made their way all throughout. And they will get into the bags, and that's problematic. So when I do a major cleaning, I end up taking all the bags out, cutting the pothos and pulling the roots out from where they're stuck, and basically reconfiguring that chamber once it's cleaned out. But you don't have to clean out a sump if it's running well indefinitely, and I haven't. I mean, you can see the bottom is pretty clean, and that's an amazing fact given months and months and months of no service. But those roots and all the other things that I'm doing absolutely take care of the particulates and sediment and everything a filter is supposed to do. And the shrimp and the black mollies are also really good at cleaning up too. Bits and particles of food that make its way into here when you feed your tank are picked off by these creatures, and of course the shrimp and mollies eat algae as well. So they are not by any means freeloaders. They're performing a service in this aquarium. There's a mono shrimp in here as well. Basically anything that gets sucked into those tubes I showed you will find their new life in the aquarium under the aquarium. That's what I like to call a sump, the aquarium under the aquarium. So this third chamber, and this is pretty awesome, I actually put some substrate on the bottom. I don't know that I would do that again. It'll be a nightmare when the day comes where I have to deal with it. But clearly the plants love it. They have made their way down, and there's pothos, water sprite, and other plants in here as well, no question about it. At first I started the pothos in a little plastic clip on the side, but that's useless. It's now just litter in the water. The roots have long since escaped it and done what they wanted to do, but pulling that out would create havoc with this intricate and tightly bound system of plants. When you do have to do a major overhaul, and you might not ever have to, but if you want to, yeah, it's gonna be a shit show, but you just put a few plastic bins here and start pulling and chopping and siphoning, and you will get a good result, and it won't take a hell of a lot longer than if you had to do a couple big old canister filters. But I'm not gonna lie, you can see for yourself, this is a whole ecosystem, and it's at least in its own way as complicated as any aquarium could be. As long as the water is flowing through from chamber to chamber, and the various little particulates of food and plant matter and detritus, they will absolutely get filtered out, and the biomedia will, of course, do its conversion of bad stuff into good stuff. And then we get to, this is a little isolation chamber, and I have a heater in there. This aquarium runs on 2 heaters. I want to thank Hyder. I've got 2 500-watt heaters, essentially set at the same temperature, just because heaters will fail, and I talked about that in a previous video. So backup heater is a good idea, especially in winter time. This is a C-shape pump. I forget the actual code number of it, but it's the one that was most appropriate for this aquarium. Siche is an Italian manufacturer, and they make superior, strong, resilient pumps. I cleaned this one about 1.5 years ago. I need to do it again. I'm just lazy, and since it's working really well, I am riding it, right? And then in here might be some Biomedia that I'm keeping in case I want to cycle another tank. And then of course the fish find their way in here as well. I've seen Plecostomus babies, Autosynclus, black mollies, and countless Neocaridina and snails. And I bet you there's baby other fish too, rainbow fish, maybe an egg or two made its way down here and it wouldn't get eaten. I haven't looked super hard. So I have a couple lights, real simple clip-ons to help with the plant growth. You see the water sprite is coming out there, and obviously Pothos does what Pothos does. And that's it in terms of the lighting down here. I used to have a LED mounted up there, but the stickies wore out from the humidity, and so I have just used these clip-ons, and they seem to be more than adequate. I don't want a ton more light because I don't need any more growth than I'm already getting, let alone algae. All right, so what's this? This is a little kind of carry-all plastic fish or reptile holder I got at Petco, because in a previous video I talked about putting a pleco tube in this tank up here, which I did. It promptly became occupied. That was one of the fish. And then another, what I thought was either an albino or a lemon blue eye, was the other parent. Now, they threw a bunch of eggs, and I lost some stuff through various mishaps, but I've eventually got this healthy little system here, which is naturally heated at about 72 from all the humidity and heat from the light and the aquarium water. And I put in a bunch of random plant matter, that's some, what do you call it, Java fern, some floaters, and a bunch of botanicals. That's why the water's colored. And I have about 20 Plecostomus in here. You see one right there. See them? So they all look black or brown or common. I don't know how that is, given the parents were both either lemon blue eye or albino, but I was expecting a mixed bag, but so far they all look like that, which that's not what I want to raise, but I don't really care because I'm not in the business of raising fish for profit. It's just for fun. I want to see if I can do it, and Lord knows the space under the aquarium here, while it's full up and has a bunch of things going on, there was room to create this fun little grow out. And then I'll just bring the fish when they're about, as soon as I can, to my LFS. Now I put in a couple algae week wafers every day or every other day, and you can see from these ram's horns that are really healthy, they're getting more than they would if they were fending for themselves up in that tank there, or really anywhere else. So this is definitely a snail dreamscape, but they will help me from uneaten food, and they're getting bigger faster than I've ever seen ram's horns get in all of my tanks ever. So yeah, I'm feeding a lot because they're babies, but I siphon out the water every few days and replace it with tank water. And I've got a super tiny bubble filter in there, sponge filter. Without that, the oxygenation would immediately fail in such a small system. When I lost the flow for a couple hours, all the snails and fish were at the top gasping for oxygen. So clearly it's a necessary component, especially in this kind of DIY, arguably too small system that I've got here. But it's part of this overall concept I've got going on down under the tank, so I wanted to share it with you. You can see that I've hung the 2 heater pads right there. They're auto set to around 78, 79, and then I've got all the other systems on these these extension packets that are hung to the back, either using magnets, screws, combination. And so far so good, right? There's a mangrove, by the way, forgot to mention that. And you can see its distinctive roots right there. Everything is doing good in here. I mean, I clipped a bunch of this pothos just the other day, and that's when I was inspired to make the video, because of all the cool stuff I got going on down here, not the least of which is this ever-growing population of fish and invertebrates occupying the sump. Maybe these mollies struggle to get certain food elements, but I really doubt it. And they're free from predators. Not that mollies ever really worry about it, but when they're small. And certainly up there, the rainbow fish, which are the size of my hand, and the angelfish will make quick work of fry, and I don't mind that. I don't need those fish. I don't want them per se, the babies that is. And if any survive, it's gonna be a story of survival of the fittest. I mean, look at that, isn't that cool? For those of you who love jungle or natural tanks, a sump is your best friend. You can do whatever you want. Create a refugium like this, and that's what this is called, if I didn't say so already. One of the sections is used primarily for plants. Some people grow their plants in here as a grow out tank and just keep the pots down at the bottom, or they just throw in rhizomes from Anubias, and they can use them later, and then they will also serve a purpose while you're letting them grow out. But I just went all in on the filtration roots concept. And since I overstock my tanks, as you all know, I mean, sometimes by accident, sometimes by design, having this ample and intense filtration system with really no missing element, and probably more than I need, it works out to be, I can't even come up with an equation. You can sort of calculate mass and volume with a canister. Good luck with that here. But it goes down, it's pretty deep, and it's a couple feet high, maybe not quite 2 feet high, I'm not sure, never measured. It's easy to work in. I just put a step stool, or I sit where I'm sitting now, and I can do anything I need to do. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments, by all means, hit me up. I will answer. And as usual, keep your hands in the tank or the sump, albeit carefully. And ciao for now.